You ever watch someone try to bulldoze your family's whole history with a handshake and a smile? Yeah, that happened to me. I never thought my dad dying would land me in a full-on war for 150 stubborn acres of Texas dirt. But here we are. And let me tell you, if you've ever tangled with the queen of an HOA, you know exactly the kind of fight I'm talking about. My name's Jeremy, and before this all kicked off, I was living a decent life in Austin, a couple blocks from the best taco truck in Travis County, working long hours as a software engineer, thinking my biggest headache was code that wouldn't compile. But the day Dad passed, all of that changed. I found myself in a dusty probate office, my name stamped on a deed older than half the county, suddenly the steward of Coalfield Acres, 150 acres of pasture, pond, and sweat that ran deeper than the roots of any mesquite or live oak. And right next door, creeping up like cancer, was Clear Sky Estates, the newest HOA juggernaut in Johnson County, waving their money and blueprints around like they owned the place. I came home in the spring, traded my loafers for boots, and let the land beat the city out of me one blister at a time. Fence mending, tractor repairs, cattle checks, that kind of rhythm gets in your bones quick. You breathe a little deeper, sleep a little harder until the HOA comes knocking and everything changes. 3 weeks in, I got a knock at the door, woman in her 50s, tan lines from her tennis bracelet, Botox where her soul should have been. "Mr. Coalfield," she says, scanning my porch like she's measuring it for demolition. "That's me," I say, wiping grease off my hands. "Karen Criswell, president of the Clear Sky Estates Homeowners Association." I could already smell the trouble. She handed me a folder thicker than a Sunday steakhouse menu, smiling like a mortician pitching pre-dug coffins. "We'd like to make you a generous offer for your property. $500,000 for 150 acres plus some artists' renderings of my house as a wellness retreat and my vineyard paved over for pickleball courts. You know what I mean?" She actually said, "We could even incorporate your home as a leasing office." I laughed. Then I said no. Just like that. She looked at me like I'd spit in her Chardonnay. "You may want to reconsider upkeep's a lot. The place is dated," she said, words dripping with that HOA pity. I handed her the folder back. "Not selling. Not now, not ever." She left with a huff, and I swear her Lexus peeled out just to show the gravel who's boss. 2 days later, a letter arrives, county violations all bogus. Water runoff, illegal burning, hazardous chemical storage. I call the inspector, voicemail. Drive down to the county office myself. "This shouldn't have gone out," the desk clerk says. "No inspection logged, no violations." Later that night, I found my barn's padlock, bent tools, scattered irrigation maps rifled through. This wasn't a negotiation anymore. This was war. Next morning, I find 6 shiny HOA signs staked along my fence. Private property, HOA oversight zone, trespassers prosecuted. I yanked them up, threw them in my truck, and drove straight to the sheriff. Heron, a deputy I knew from high school football, looked at the signs and said, "Clear Sky's been busy." "Busy trying to steal land," I muttered. He just nodded and said, "Wouldn't be the first time." That's when it hit me. This isn't just my fight. The HOA didn't let up. Flyers filled my mailbox. Phase 4 expansion glossy maps with my vineyard photoshopped into a community tennis complex, invitations for neighborhood votes to welcome my land into their utopia. Annexation, they called it, like I was the last outpost on some colonial map. They sent volunteers to my door, all fake smiles and clipboards. "Have you considered a friendly annexation?" one woman asked. "Only thing I'm annexing is another roll of barbed wire," I told her. Then the letters, dozens of them. "Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. Your land is better suited for public use. Public use, my foot." The kicker was a certified envelope from some big city law firm asking for voluntary relinquishment of parcel, offering $5,000 and $25,000 this time, 25 grand more, thinking maybe I'd sell out for the price of a new pickup. I burned that letter in the fire pit with a shot of Jack. Figured it'd make good fertilizer. Word came down about a community meeting, public vote, pressure, no legal teeth, but enough to scare most folks. That's when Bill, my neighbor and a retired contractor, dropped by with a 6-pack. They're making this public tonight. You might want to be there, he said, glancing over his shoulder like the pine trees were wired. I went boots dirty, head high, straight into that beige country club they call the Clear Sky Community Hall. Karen was at the mic, pastel suit sharp enough to slice bread, projecting my land on a screen labeled Future Development Coalfield Civic Zone. She starts spinning a tale. One stubborn parcel of outdated farmland stands in the way of our vision. The crowd glances at me. Guess I look the part. She calls for a vote to absorb Coalfield Acres. That's when I stood up, hit record on my phone, and said, "This is a public meeting under Texas law. I've got rights." Karen blinked but played along. I looked everyone in the eye, told them my family's story. 80 years, crops, cattle, buried dogs, droughts, fires, never once fought a neighbor. "I don't belong to your HOA, I said. "I don't want your tennis courts or your yoga decks. I just want to be left alone." Karen cut in. "No one's trying to take anything. You call fake signs and bulldozers a partnership," I shot back. The room tensed. "You're clinging to the past," she snapped. "You can't hold back progress." "I can't hold back progress," I said, "but I can damn well keep it off my porch." The place broke into applause, small but real. As I left, Karen tried to snatch my phone. I stared her down. "You want my land, bring everything you got. But don't expect us to roll over." Didn't take long for things to escalate. Couple days later, I hear a backhoe rumbling near my pond. 2 guys in vests claiming easement work. Their paperwork, pure HOA gibberish, not a county seal in sight. "This land's not part of your HOA, I told them. They wouldn't budge until I started filming, threatened to call the sheriff. They packed up and left, but not before tearing 6 feet out of my pond bank. Then the drone started buzzing low, sweeping the vineyard, eyeing the house. I waited until one dipped too close and blasted it out of the sky. Karen's son, a lawyer, called threatening legal action. I laughed. "Maybe your team can teach you how to fly a drone legally." Next day I got a court summons. But my lawyer, Denise, retired grandma meaner than a hornet, filed a countersuit for privacy invasion. The judge tossed their case before lunch and the FAA fined them for illegal drone use. Karen's empire was starting to crack. Still, things got uglier. Found my well house sabotaged, lock cut, valve, twisted, water wasted, HOA flyer taped to the door. Still open to negotiations. That's when I called Grandpa. Henry Coalfield, Korean War vet, retired judge rancher legend. He rolled in with a battered Stetson and a folder marked County Charter Exemption Agreement, 1969 document proving our land was permanently exempt from HOA or city annexation. Blood, sweat, and a blue stamp more powerful than any bulldozer or lawyer. At the next HOA meeting, Grandpa walked in slow and steady, held up that old paper like a sheriff's badge. "This land is exempt, signed and notarized in '69 before your bylaws even existed." Karen sputtered about development standards, but Grandpa cut her off. "You don't own the ground, that's the point." The room went dead quiet. After that, Karen tried one last play, a construction crew rolling in with fake permits. I filmed them, called the sheriff, and showed every inch of proof. They left, and Karen's options vanished. But we weren't done. Grandpa and I hit the county clerk's office, dug through years of HOA filings. With a little barbecue bribe, we found the real dirt-faked violation reports, discretionary funds funneled to a so-called consultant who'd forged environmental reports. We packaged it all and sent it to the DA. By Friday, the county was knocking on Karen's door. Her inspector cracked, giving up names and dates. News broke: fraud, bribery, document falsification, the whole crooked scheme unraveling. At the next board meeting, as Karen tried to explain away environmental rehabilitation, county investigators and a deputy walked in, cuffed her in front of the whole board. One woman quietly took off her HOA badge and set it on the table. The crowd was stunned. That's how it ended. Local news called it the Coalfield Sting. I called it justice. The HOA board dissolved, angry neighbors filed lawsuits, and for the first time in years, Coalfield Acres was free. We rebuilt the barn, fenced the vineyard, bottled a little muscadine wine, hung a hand-carved sign that reads, 80 years on our land. Never in an HOA. People still come by to take pictures, to tell their own stories, to remember what it means to stand your ground. These days, Grandpa sips coffee on the porch, tells me to shoot first, ask for credentials later if I see anyone with a clipboard. Truth is, I learned more from this fight than I ever did in college. Out here, if you sell your legacy for convenience, you're not the owner anymore. You're just a tenant in someone else's empire. And out here, we don't do empires. We do roots. We do resistance. And we damn sure do legacy. So, what do you think? Was I right to stand my ground? Or is there ever a reason to let progress win? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me if you've ever fought for something you couldn't put a price on. And if you're dealing with your own HOA nightmare, just remember, sometimes the only line that matters is the one you're willing to draw in the dirt.